Hello, and thank you for tuning in to Far Above Rubies today. I'm so very glad that each of you are here. Today, as we continue our walk through Lesson 6 of our Bible study called Uncovered, we are taking a look at the topic of captivity, the captivity of Israel. Throughout the time period of various kings leading Israel and Judah, God sent prophets or messengers from God to warn the nations to turn from their sin and turn back to God. Despite many years of warnings, the prophets' instructions were too often ignored. They paid no attention to what God was trying to tell them. As a result, the Lord allowed the enemy kingdom of Assyria to overthrow the northern kingdom of Israel and take them into captivity. Israel's captivity happened in 722 BC. 2 Kings chapter 17 and verse 6 says, "In the 9th year of Hoshea, the king of Assyria took Samaria and carried away Israel into Assyria." 2 Kings chapter 17 verses 7 through 9 says, "For so it was that the children of Israel had sinned against the Lord their God. The children of Israel secretly did things against the Lord their God that were not right." Approximately 135 years later, the southern kingdom called Judah was also taken into captivity by the Babylonians. And that happened, Judah's captivity happened in 587 BC. 1 Chronicles chapter 9 and verse 1 says, "But Judah was carried away captive to Babylon because of their unfaithfulness." Ezra chapter 5 and verse 12 says, "Because our fathers provoked the God of heaven to wrath, he gave them into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon." Once again, after generations of freedom, Israel was back in bondage because of their disobedience and rejection of God's instructions. It's important for us to learn from history and not make the same mistakes with God that the nation of Israel made. If we happen to get off course in our relationship with God, it's necessary, it's important, it's vital for us to turn back to Him, to give our hearts back to Him and follow instructions that He has for our lives. We can always pick ourselves up and point ourselves back in God's direction when we fall, and we will at times fall. We are human beings. We make mistakes. We have a broken nature, and at times we are led away of our own lust and enticed, okay? But we have hope. 2 Chronicles chapter 7 and verse 14 says this, "Then if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, I will hear from heaven and will forgive their sins and restore their land." And God can do that same thing for you and I, friend. When we turn away from God and we have made mistakes and we find ourselves going any other direction than the heart of Jesus, we can humble ourselves, we can turn from our wicked ways, we can pray, we can seek the face of God, and He will hear us from heaven and He will restore. This is a very short lesson today. Tomorrow we're going to talk, though, about the return from exile, and that's a joyous one. Make sure that you tune in for the conclusion of lesson 6 in our Bible study called Uncovered. If no one has told you lately, you are loved and you are cherished and you are valuable. You have beautiful and tremendous worth, my sweet friend, and that worth is far above rubies. Thanks for being here. I'll see you again tomorrow. God bless you.